Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci en tout cas d'être présent et merci à toi Chloé de m'accompagner.
Merci Steven, bonjour à tous. Je serai la traductrice de ce jour. Et bonjour.
Bonjour Bryan.
À Bryan. Hello Bryan.
Hey there.
Donc Bryan, wow, personnage assez extraordinaire, champion du monde, recordman d'empilement de châteaux de cartes, et pas que des châteaux, hein, il fait des monuments extraordinaires qui, bien au-delà, dépassent sa taille, quoi.
So Bryan is an extraordinary champion, Guinness recordman of house of cards and buildings of cards and huge things and beautiful things with cards. We'll show you. Maybe I could show a picture for a beginning of what you've done, like this castle, Cinderella's castle for Walt Disney. Donc ça, c'est le château de Cendrillon que Bryan a fait pour Walt Disney.
Bryan a, comment dire, à la base, il a un diplôme d'ingénieur, mais avant de devenir ingénieur, moi, ce qui m'intéresse, c'est qu'il a commencé à s'intéresser aux cartes à l'âge de 8 ans grâce à son grand-père. Qu'est-ce que son grand-père lui a appris comme valeur, en fait?
So what Steven is saying is that you have a degree of engineer. You started building house of cards at the age of 8 years old. And what you're saying, Steven, is that it's your grandfather who inspired you to start building these houses of cards. So what happened exactly? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé avec ça?
Well, the short answer is that, you know, lots of kids start building stuff, you know, it's just something they do. And I was no different. And it wasn't just playing cards. It was almost anything I could get my hands on.
Mm-mm.
And basically when I was in high school, I was working for an engineer and he knew that I did this. And one day I was in his office and he was like, well, you know, what's the Guinness, or no, he said to me, what's the tallest you've ever built? And I said, oh, you know, like 8 feet or something. And he was like, well, what's the Guinness record? And I said, oh, you know, 12 feet, 10 inches. And he just looked at me like, well, duh, you know, like, what are you waiting for? Why don't you do it? So I did a practice in his office, which was in a big, beautiful old library with really tall ceilings. And I mean, I just did it for kind of the fun of it, really. And I had no idea that when I did that, that it would kind of start everything. And then like when I was in college, so I went to school for architecture, not engineering.
Oh, sorry.
And then when I was in my sophomore year of college, a friend of mine, so this is 1994, I think. Gosh, is that 30
No, it
years
was
ago?
1992, I think, the record.
No, the record was 92, but now I'm talking about kind of like what happened. So then in 1994, when I'm a sophomore in college, a friend of mine said, you need a website. And I was like, well, what's a website?
Yeah, of course.
Nobody had a website.
Maybe I'll translate until then for the public.
And so anyway, he put up cardstacker.com for me.
Oh, right.
And then, you know.
And then it started.
30 years later. So that's really how it happened. It was never, like a lot of people say to me, how did you know you wanted to be a card stacker? Well, you know, it was never my intention.
Yeah.
I was just doing what I love to do.
Yeah, that's great. So, yeah. Au début, ce qu'il explique Bryan, c'est que il a construit des choses comme tous les garçons le font quand ils sont petits. Et au collège, il a son prof qui l'a encouragé, en fait, parce que Bryan, il était déjà en train de faire des châteaux de cartes. Il avait fait son plus haut château, c'était un peu moins de 3 mètres, c'était 8 pieds. Wow. Et il a demandé à son prof quel est le record du monde? Quel est le plus haut château de cartes qui a été construit? Et il lui a dit, bah, c'est à peu près 4 mètres. Donc, il n'était pas loin du record. Alors, il a continué, il a essayé et il l'a réussi. Et c'était en 1992-1992 qu'il a fait son premier record, grâce à son prof qui était je ne sais plus si c'était... your teacher was your teacher engineer or architecture, sorry.
Oh, architecture.
Architecture. And it was when you were, how old were you?
Well,
again?
Let's see. When I first did the Guinness record, I must have been 18.
18. Il avait 18 ans pour la première fois qu'il a fait son record. Ouais. Yeah. Et ce qu'il nous disait, Bryan, c'est que c'est pas un objectif qu'il avait depuis petit de faire ça. C'était vraiment une occupation, quelque chose qu'il aimait faire, mais il n'a jamais pensé en faire un métier ou faire ça de façon professionnelle et battre des records. Ça s'est fait petit à petit. Et à ce moment-là, c'est ton prof, your teacher who proposed, who suggested that you had a website. Is that right? Yeah.
No, it was a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah, a friend of mine. A friend of yours. Donc, c'est un ami de Bryan qui lui a dit, mais est-ce que tu as un site? En 1994. Alors, à l'époque, c'était pas encore, Internet n'était pas développé, on ne savait pas ce que c'était, et Bryan ne savait pas ce que c'était un site, alors il lui a fait son site. What's the name of your first website again?
Oh, it's the same, it's always been, cardstacker.com.
Alors, le site de Bryan, c'est le site qu'il a toujours aujourd'hui, c'est cardstacker.com.
I didn't come up with that name.
So
it was
who?
Just my friend. He was like, he's like, you need a website.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you? He said to me, what do you think about Card Stacker?
Yeah. And you said, yeah, why not?
I said, okay.
Donc le nom du site.
He's like, that's kind of what you are, you know, you're a card stacker. Yeah. I was like, okay, that sounds fine.
En fait, le nom du site, c'est Card Stacker, ça veut dire empileur de cartes. Hein, on met des cartes les unes sur les autres.
Et the funny thing about all of this is that, you know, so that's 30 years ago. And like when I think about how, you know, life has a way of kind of like presenting challenges, but also life has a way of presenting these opportunities that you may not really realize at the time what they are, you know, like you make a small decision and then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, you know, and it totally changes everything.
C'est ça.
And that's kind of the cool thing about, you know, if anyone who's a creative person, that's kind of what I always tell them. I'm like, you know, you really got to kind of follow your heart and do what you love, because, you know, if you do that, probably really good things will happen.
And life will help you.
Yeah, right, right.
Ce que dit Bryan, c'est que parfois la vie, elle nous offre des challenges et qui sont des opportunités et qui font que petit à petit, notre vie, elle se construit sans qu'on l'ait forcément prévu, mais elle nous tend la main quand on fait des choses qui vont dans le sens de qui on est. Et quand on écoute son cœur, quand on écoute c'est ce qu'on disait dans la dernière interview, quand on va au bout de ses rêves et qu'on suit vraiment ce qui pulse en nous. Et c'est ce qui s'est passé pour Bryan.
J'aimerais lui poser une question aussi.
Another question.
Alors, j'ai vu dans un article que Bryan était quelqu'un dans la vie de maladroit. Et c'est assez contradictoire avec ce qu'il fait. Les châteaux de cartes, ça demande une adresse absolue, une patience. Mais dans la vie, il est maladroit.
Alors, yeah, I didn't know that. Interesting. Stephen is saying that in life, what he understood about you is that you seem to be clumsy, and that's what he says. And how come you can make these castles, these houses with this skill? How handy you are and skillful you are to do that versus the rest of your life, or the fact that you're a bit quite clumsy, maybe. So how come?
Well, you know, I think it's kind of, there's two things that make it possible. The first one is when I do card stacking, I definitely turn on a part of my brain that is normally not really working. So I'm very careful. You know, I look and then I move, and then I look and then I move. And then the other part of it is that, you know, the way that I set the cards up is kind of like a recipe for success. So it's not like I'm, you know, riding a bicycle with a tire that I know is going to go flat.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm riding a bicycle with solid tires, you know.
Alors, yeah, I'll translate. Donc, ce que dit Bryan, c'est que quand il construit un château de cartes, il y a quelque chose dans son cerveau qui switch, qui change. Et il est vraiment dans une autre énergie, dans un autre état d'esprit, et ça fonctionne différemment. Et il a une sorte de recette. D'ailleurs, peut-être qu'on peut montrer, maybe we'll show a bit of you building these, stacking those cards, because we have a little video about you to show the people how it works. Et donc, il a une sorte de recette qui fait que quand il met ses cartes, ça fonctionne à chaque fois. Il faisait la comparaison avec, si tu veux construire une bicyclette, tu ne vas pas mettre des pneus crevés, tu vas prendre des bons pneus. Mais là, la recette, c'est toujours la même et c'est quelque chose qui fonctionne bien. Alors, what do you think if we show now the little video about you so that people can understand? Let's go for it.
Yeah, see it.
Great.
My name is Bryan Berg, and I hold the Guinness World Record for the world's tallest house of cards and the Guinness World Record for the world's largest house of cards, all freestanding. My grandfather was a bit of a card player, and he would always build a small house of cards between card games. And I was always really captivated by anything that required some sort of assembly. So that took my interest, and I got a bit obsessed. And when I was clear back in grade school, I completely nerded out and captured my first Guinness World Record at that time, and that was 1992. I don't even know officially how many times I've broken my Guinness World Record, but it's probably 8 or 10 times, I think. Over time, the bar keeps getting raised a bit for every kind of project that I do. The cards have a tendency to warp a bit when it's really, really wet or really, really dry. And that deformation in their geometry actually causes things to not want to work the way that I want them to. It's a bit drier here than I anticipated. It does cause my cards to warp a surprising amount, and it really, really makes my life very difficult. I do have problems some days. Like, you know, some days are really hard, actually. I'm at the end of the day, I just am in a terrible mood because, you know, card stacking just didn't go very well. It's a small miracle, but I have actually never totally wiped out any of my projects. Like, as soon as I go into the area where I'm working, I have to turn on a whole different part of my brain that is normally and quite apparently absent in my daily life, because I'm the first person who will trip, I'm the first person who will spill my drink, things like that. But when I'm stacking cards, I don't know why that is, but I have to be very diligent about those kinds of precautions. Otherwise, I think every day I would have a major catastrophe. All of my work, or 90% of it, is based on kind of my repertoire, which is like a series of components that I know how to make or that I'm comfortable making. And so every time I build something or I get asked to build something, I have to kind of go through in my head and think, okay, what units that I prefer to make would I use to make something that looks like this or that. Having this be my day job, you know, the good side of it is that I've done a lot of traveling. I've been many places. I've worked for all kinds of people and companies, been a part of some really exciting campaigns and projects. Sometimes the traveling can get a little rough when you're away from home for a month or 2 or 3 at a time. There's a there's a time when you just want your own bed and your own kitchen and things like that. But my wife travels with me, and you know, it makes it nice that the two of us are able to go together, so we're not apart for days or weeks or months on end. So we just kind of uproot our life and go wherever the card stacking takes us, and each time it's an adventure, and I guess I really can't complain. I mostly do my work in the sense that I hope that people will look at what I do and think, oh, I thought that was impossible, and then think that maybe there's other things out there that we perceive as being totally impossible but would actually be very possible. So it's an honor to be the Guinness World Record holder, and it's been a huge part of my life. I've actually held the record now for 20 years this spring, which is more than half of my life. So it's been a part of my life for almost as long as I can remember, I guess.
Here we are. Thank you.
So I want to make one clarification, and that is that I'm not really sure. I have to do a little more research, but I actually think someone somewhere broke the record for the largest house of cards.
Oh.
But I stole the record for the tallest house of cards.
All right. Largest. Donc,
Ouais.
le record de la comment on peut dire,
However,
a été rompu, apparemment. Mais Bryan a toujours celui de la hauteur. Yeah, go ahead.
I can't talk about it yet, but I think this fall, the largest house of cards will be mine again.
Oh, ok.
C'est celui qui est en Chine.
Le record, il compte bien, Bryan, gagner le record de la plus large.
Because, you know, I want to, a little bit ago, I said something about, you know, life presenting challenges and life presenting opportunities. And so for me, there's kind of been three, I guess I'll group them in the challenges category. First, we started a family, which if you have kids, you know that's a lot of work. So I wouldn't call that necessarily a challenge. It's just like a modification, a modification to life, okay?
Yeah.
And then...
Le premier challenge, c'est faire une famille. Donc c'est ça que Bryan dit.
And then I had eye cancer.
Ouh, il a eu un cancer de l'œil. Deuxième challenge.
D'accord.
Wow. How did you do that? How did you manage to?
Well, I luckily was able to go see like the very best doctor in the whole world, and I still have 20/20 vision.
Wow.
Even though I've had three eye surgeries and radiation on my eye.
Il a eu une opération à l'œil avec le meilleur spécialiste.
And I had cataract. The radiation destroys the lens in your eye, so I had to have cataract surgery last fall because I couldn't see out of this eye at all. And I was doing projects with one eye. I could not see. I didn't have any depth perception. I couldn't tell if my hands were like, you know, here or if they were here.
Near or far.
It was unbelievable.
How long have you been in that situation when you couldn't see with your left eye?
About a year and a half, I couldn't see. So I got eye cancer in 2019.
Okay. Donc, il a eu son cancer en 2019. Il pouvait pas voir. Il n'a pas réussi à voir.
Yeah.
Il pouvait plus voir pendant 1 an et demi. Donc, il n'y avait plus la profondeur. Il n'y avait plus le relief. Il ne pouvait plus construire comme avant. So, yeah,
it's very... This form of eye cancer is very, very deadly.
Ah, c'est un cancer qui est très mortel normalement. On en réchappe.
Because it easily spreads to your liver and your lungs.
Et ça se prolonge, ça se répand dans le foie et et le poumon.
But I caught mine pretty early.
Mais le sien, il l'a pris tôt.
The third challenge was the pandemic.
Et le troisième challenge, c'était la pandémie. So, tell us about it.
So, well, I mean, just, you know, nobody was doing events.
Yeah.
You know, the whole world shut down. So, you know, start a family, have eye cancer, and then a pandemic. And so basically, I would kind of say that due to a number, well, starting a family was within my control, but getting cancer and the pandemic was not in my control.
Yeah.
So because of, you know, those three things, I haven't really been as active as I had been. But now that everything is kind of returning to normal for me, I'm pretty excited about a handful of things that are coming up because I'll be able to, you know, well, I'll be able to see what I'm doing, and then also just some really great opportunities that are coming up that I can't talk about yet. But
Great.
but because of those things, I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've let my career slip, but I just haven't been as focused as I had been. But I'm excited to kind of be back.
Let me translate, please. Donc, il a passé 3 challenges. On a dit tout à l'heure, fonder une famille, guérir son cancer de l'œil qui était normalement mortel, enfin fatal. Et il a été avec ce meilleur spécialiste qui l'a complètement guéri. Et arrêter son activité à cause des mesures dues à cette pandémie de Covid-19. Donc, ça l'a beaucoup, ça l'a retardé en fait. Ça l'a empêché d'être vraiment focalisé sur son activité. Mais maintenant, c'est en train de se remettre en place comme il le souhaite. Et maintenant, ça reprend forme. Donc, OK. So now you're totally in a normal way of working with your houses of cards, with your activities like before, you could say?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Ça a repris comme avant.
Well, you know, the other thing I would say about all of that is, especially given the, you know, especially when I get thinking about cancer, because I just turned 50.
Yeah, I'm the same age as you. I'm 49. Oh, you turned 50. Yeah.
So if you would have told me that I would have cancer when I was 50, because all my relatives, like all my grandparents, lived to be very old.
Yeah.
In very good health. So I always thought I had forever, right?
Yeah,
we all think we have forever.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I you know, kind of my new message is like, you know, if there's something you want to do, you
do it now.
Better do it.
Exactly. C'est ce que dit,
you never know. You never know.
Voilà.
Right?
Ce que dit Bryan, yeah, I do agree 100%.
Yeah. Gotta go
on ne sait
for
jamais
it.
ce qui va nous arriver dans la vie. Et Bryan, il est issu d'une famille où les gens ils vivent centenaires. Enfin, ils vivent très longtemps, donc il pensait qu'il était éternel et qu'il n'aurait jamais de problème de santé. Et ce truc qui lui est arrivé à 50 ans, parce qu'il a 50 ans cette année, Bryan, c'est que mais ça lui a fait dire que si vous voulez faire quelque chose, faites-le maintenant. N'attendez pas demain, dans un an, dans une semaine, que vous ayez construit votre maison ou bien que vous ayez fini vos études, c'est maintenant. C'est vraiment the importance of right now. Now
Oh,
and
yeah, right.
Here and now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that I, like, you know, took my life or my youth for granted, but like once once you have that happen to you, your mind is in a totally different place.
Yeah. Alors,
And
ouais.
it's weird because you kind of like don't care about some things you used to care about, and other things you care about a whole bunch more, you know? So, anyway, that's why I'm extra excited about some of these upcoming opportunities, because I'm kind of looking at them from my post-cancer mindset, you know?
En fait, quand on a un cancer, ça nous change complètement. Bryan, il pensait, comme tout le monde, je suppose, que quand on est jeune, bah, on prend ça pour acquis. Enfin, on ne voit pas de maladie possible, on se pense éternel. Mais que d'avoir un cancer, ça nous transforme. Et on ne voit plus jamais les choses de la même façon. Et on est plus dans l'immédiat, dans le maintenant, de l'ici et maintenant, et réaliser vraiment les choses qu'on veut faire au plus profond de notre cœur. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. That's right.
So, you know, I guess what I kind of feel like, you know, is I feel like, especially now, and I'll sound like an old man when I say this, and I am almost an old man.
No way.
But I feel like, especially now, a lot of young people are kind of like struggling with like, well, what do I do with my life? You know, what am I going to do? And to think that you could be so young and so full of energy and so full of ideas, and you have your health and you have your youth.
Yeah.
Go do something. Like, you know, don't sit around and wait. You could be hit by a truck tomorrow. So, you know, it's a terrible, it's kind of a pessimistic way of looking at it, but actually, no, I'm just saying, like, you know, get after it.
Alors, oui, quand on est jeune, on ne se rend pas compte de tous les potentiels qui sont là, et on se dit qu'on sera jeune toute la vie. Alors, c'est maintenant, quand on est jeune et qu'on a l'énergie, qu'on est en bonne santé, qu'il faut faire les choses. Il ne faut pas attendre son canapé et se dire ah, qu'est-ce que je vais faire de ma vie. Il faut y aller, foncer, écouter ce qui est là en nous, et ne pas se mettre de frein, ou ne pas écouter nos peurs par rapport à ça, et foncer. Yeah.
Ça me rappelle. Alors,
And you know, I think that along the same lines, like a lot of people, they don't necessarily, what's the word? They don't nurture their interests. You know,
Nurture.
So like for example,
Yeah.
if you like to sew,
yeah,
you know, I don't care if it's with a needle and a thread or if it's with a sewing machine.
Yeah.
If you like to do that, then you should like figure out a way to do that. Like for real. Take it to the next level. Figure out what you're going to do with that. Or, you know, whatever that is. Don't wait around for someone to tell you what to do. You should find your own passion and you should pursue it, whatever that is.
Ouais.
I've always felt that way, and I've always said that a lot in interviews, but especially with cancer, hopefully in the rearview mirror. I just can't say it enough. Like, you know, if you're a young person, or I don't care how old you are, like if there's something you want to do, if there's something you like doing, you got to follow your passions.
Ce que dit Bryan, alors quelle que soit votre passion, votre envie, faites-le. N'attendez pas qu'on vous explique comment on fait. Par exemple, si vous voulez apprendre à coudre, essayez vous-même, et ne pensez pas que quelqu'un va vous apprendre mieux. Faut vraiment se lancer. Et c'est en le faisant qu'on apprend à le faire, et qu'on s'améliore et qu'on y arrive.
Ouais.
You had a question, I
je sais
think.
plus ce que j'ai dit.
Tu avais une question.
Yeah, your turn now.
Your turn now. Ton tour maintenant.
Ouais, non, en fait, j'en ai plusieurs. Mais
I've been controlling the conversation too long.
No, that's great.
Non,
you're the main person here,
wow,
so great.
Son cœur, là, c'est beau.
Yeah.
Ouais, il disait à un moment donné dans un article qu'on apprend plus dans la déconstruction que dans la construction.
You were saying in some newspapers that you learn more in
Déconstruction, c'est
plus dans la construction.
donc plus dans la déconstruction. que dans
More,
la
you
construction.
learn more when you deconstruct than when you build something. That what you think? Tell us about it.
Well, okay, so you learn different things when you do different things. So like when you're stacking, you're kind of learning one set of things. You're getting ideas. You're like, you know what? I think this is strong enough.
Yeah.
I think this will hold all the weight I'm going to put on it. I hope. But then when it comes time to knock it down and you have to like, to make it go, to make it fall, that's when you realize, you know what? I should have just chilled out and just not worried about it because it's totally fine. And so you kind of learn, that what you built was better than you thought it was.
Oh.
And
when you put it down, you think about that.
Yeah. When you knock it down and you realize that you have to like really go nuts to get it to fall down, you're like, oh gosh, like, I was worried about nothing.
Okay.
So therefore, when I'm working on something and I'm way up there and it's maybe a little scary, I just try to like, block it out and keep going.
Ouais, en fait,
you know what it is? Do you know the saying, ignorance is bliss?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
In French, we say, heureux est le simple d'esprit.
Yeah.
Happy the man who doesn't think.
That's the other golden rule of card stacking. Take a chance.
Stick a chance.
Take a chance.
Alors, si j'ai pas tout exactement compris parce qu'il y a des expressions très très américaines, très très spéciales, mais en gros, quand on construit, on est dans un esprit de créativité, et quand Bryan il doit construire donc ces immenses châteaux de cartes et après il doit les détruire parce qu'on ne peut pas les garder toute la vie dans une pièce. Et c'est là qu'il se rend compte, c'est toujours difficile pour lui de détruire son travail qui a pris des heures. How long do you, des jours. How long do you use to build a house of cards, a castle like the one we saw just before? How many hours or I don't know, days?
That one took me about a month.
Wow, il a pris un mois. Ouais. Let me show you again, everybody. This castle, ça a pris un mois pour le construire. Donc,
so I don't know if you heard about the story. Part of that was that I built that in a tent right in front of the real Cinderella's castle.
Il a construit ça dans une tente juste en face du vrai château de Cendrillon.
And the tent had this opening for the air conditioning vent to come in, right?
Il y a eu l'air conditionné, il y avait de l'air dans la pièce.
But it wasn't the air conditioning that was a problem.
What was a problem?
The problem was there was a gap between the air conditioning vent, which was, really big, and the tent, and a squirrel got in there.
Il y a eu un écureuil qui est arrivé dans la tente entre l'air
conditionné. And the squirrel did some damage.
How did it damage? It
jumped up on top of it and part of it collapsed. Like just not a huge piece, but of course the most complicated part of it.
Oh, l'écureuil, il a sauté sur le château de cartes, il a fait s'écrouler une partie, la partie compliquée.
That just shows you that just when you think you have it all figured out.
Ouais, c'est qu'en fait, il y a rien qui
like now what? Now
solide,
what,
Il faut être prêt à tout reconstruire tout le temps. So what did you do? You built the part that was damaged.
Okay,
mean,
well, all right. So it's a little more complicated. So
ah,
I had it written in my contract that I
yeah.
could leave Disney World for, I remember how many days it was, like 3 or 4 or 5 days, to go do another project in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
And I assured Disney that there would be no problem with me being gone.
And it wasn't right.
So I had been in Las Vegas for like 48 hours,
2 days.
and I get a
And they
phone
called you.
call. Mr. Berg, there is a squirrel.
Oh, so you weren't there when the squirrel
No. And they
came.
sent me pictures, and I was like, you know,
Okay.
because of course the squirrel attacked like the most fragile part of it,
Oh yeah, if it
part
if
that
not
I
if
could hardly get back into to fix it. So I basically had to go out to the airport and get on the first flight.
So
And
let me just
go ahead.
I'll just translate. Donc, Bryan, il est parti quelques jours à Las Vegas parce qu'il était à Disney World pour faire ce château. Et il est parti 2 jours. Il devait partir 2 jours pour faire un autre projet. Et il avait assuré Disney qu'il n'y aurait aucun problème. À peine il est parti, il a reçu un coup de fil. Il y a l'écureuil qui est en train de détruire votre château. Et évidemment, c'était la partie la plus délicate, la plus fragile, la plus compliquée à refaire. Donc, il a repris l'avion. Il est revenu réparer. So yeah, you got back, and then
I was greeted by a very large entourage of Disney executives who are very concerned.
oh, I can guess. Donc beaucoup des directeurs qui sont arrivés vers lui, un peu préoccupés.
There was a whole section of the castle that was ready to collapse.
Une grosse partie du château qui était partie par terre, qui était
And I
effondrée.
managed to normally when something is that close to collapsing, you don't touch it. You just leave it alone.
Normalement,
right?
on touche plus quand c'est comme ça.
But in this case, it was so bad, I knew that if I didn't do something, it would crash.
Mais là, il fallait faire quelque chose parce que sinon, tout le château allait tomber. Wow. So what did you do?
I took a huge chance and I stuffed some cards in there to shore everything up. And it worked. It didn't fall.
Donc, il a pris un gros
risque. I turned around and
I
said, okay.
Il a renforcé cette partie.
Everything is fine here. Everyone can relax.
And it worked.
It was okay. But I still had more work to do, but you know, the main part of it was
you saved.
And I tried to act all cool and collected. Tried to act like I wasn't worried.
So when we see
I was freaking out.
I guess.
Oh, the best part of that story.
Ah, la meilleure partie de l'histoire.
The best part of that story is, you know, Mr. Berg, there's a squirrel in your card castle. And I'm like, well, where is he now? And they're like, we cannot confirm that, Mr. Berg. So they had set live traps and were playing loud music, and they'd put bright lights in there. They were doing everything they could think of to make it an environment where a squirrel would not want to be.
So
and it worked. Because apparently he left.
Le truc, c'est qu'ils ne savaient pas où était l'écureuil. On ne savait pas où était l'écureuil après qu'il ait détruit cette partie du château. Donc, ils ont mis beaucoup de musique, beaucoup de lumière pour que l'écureuil ne revienne pas. Et ça a marché. Il n'est pas revenu. So, we don't know what happened with this squirrel. He left and that's it. Il est parti.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. On ne saura jamais ce qui s'est passé avec l'écureuil après ça. Mais
and when we knocked it down, he wasn't inside it. So, who knows where he went.
Donc, so this castle now, when we see it, was it after the squirrel?
Yes.
And
to tell you where he attacked, you see the main entrance there?
Oh, let me show. The main entrance, oui, l'entrée principale.
To my right.
Yeah.
See that big opening?
I see it. On voit le trou, l'entrée là vers la gauche, enfin à la droite de Bryan. Là, oui.
Combien de cartes il a utilisé?
Attends, je me demande après. So tell us about it. The entrance.
Yeah, that big opening, you know, which is kind of a structural miracle with playing cards.
Right.
Of course,
you
that's
did
the area that maybe he looked at it and thought, that's how I get in there.
Il a dû se dire, l'écureuil, que c'est par ici qu'on entre, donc c'est là qu'il a commencé à aller et à tout détruire. La question de Steven, c'est combien de cartes tu as utilisé? So how many cards did you use to make this huge castle? Do you know?
I want to say it was like 3,000 decks.
3,000? 3,000.
How many cards is that? Let's see. I can't do that in my head anymore.
Okay. Il se rappelle plus exactement.
3,000 times 54. That's 162,000 cards.
162, ça veut dire 162 000 en fait cartes.
And also that's
162 000 cartes.
C'est énorme.
En fait, 3,000, c'était 3,000.
That means that was more than 400 pounds of cards.
Plus que 400 pounds. How many euros?
That's we divide by 2.2 basically. That's 194 kilograms.
Kilos. Kilos, sorry. Kilos. Presque 200 kilos.
I think
200 kilos?
I think that's the math.
Presque 200 kilos.
Wow.
That's a huge way.
C'est un vrai château.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah. It's
and
a real
that is honestly, you know, people don't understand this. That's a huge part of why these card structures actually stand up. It doesn't make any sense. But the heavier they are, like the
more they stay.
You know?
En fait, c'est le poids des cartes qui fait que ça tient. C'est parce que ça a cette force, ce poids-là que c'est solide et puis que ça tient bien ensemble. Yeah, okay.
J'aimerais lui poser la question sur le monde des casinos parce qu'il dit dans un article il a fait le tour du monde des casinos et en fait il y avait un peu une rivalité entre peut-être lui et les casinos. Je sais pas comment expliquer ça. Est-ce qu'il peut nous en dire un peu plus dessus? Parce que lui il faisait l'attraction, si tu veux, d'un certain public, mais du coup peut-être il y avait moins de public qui allait au casino, quoi, jouer. Tu vois, du coup c'était.
Yeah. Steven's talking about casinos where you went. You kind of did a world tour of casinos with your buildings, with your house.
Well, I mean, I have done a lot of casinos.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there like how do you say in English? You were rivals, casinos on you. Were they jealous on you, or were they challenging you? Did they think you were a challenger? How do you say? Compared to them?
No, they just like to have something crazy going on.
Okay.
You know,
ils voulaient des choses un peu folles comme ça, et donc c'est pour ça qu'ils ont fait appel à Bryan.
You know, casinos are always looking for some kind of creative.
I was asking Steven about these houses of cards. What do you make a parallel with the society system, which is kind of falling apart? Is there something like a house of cards out of that society we live in? Do you think it's kind of something like that, house of cards?
Well, okay, so I guess this is a thing that I would say as almost an old man, just witnessing what goes on.
Yeah.
You know, not just in the United States and not just in like pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
And in nature too. Because, you know, in nature we see, you know, like just outside my door here, there's a tree that blew over in a big storm. And that tree is probably 300 years old.
He blew over when a few days ago.
It was actually in the winter it blew over.
All right.
But my point is just that everything kind of comes in cycles.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything sort of like builds up and then it crashes. And then it builds up and then it crashes.
And
so as a young person, I think it's easy to get worried and get really freaked out about everything. And I'm not saying it's not worth being concerned about, definitely. However,
but that's cycles.
I think it's cycles, you know. It's just how it's just look at the history of humanity.
I think the same as you.
And so, you know, that goes back to what I was saying originally. I think you can kind of do your part by just trying to do the best you can do to be your best self and do what you love to do and share it with other people, make people smile, you know?
Oh yeah. Alors ce que dit Bryan, c'est
and
que
also, you know, just I think on a very small level, you can do a lot by just being randomly kind to someone.
Amen. I totally agree.
It doesn't matter who they are or what they believe in or what they think or what they look like.
No.
I mean, I was in the grocery store the other day and I saw this old lady, and there were a lot of people around or whatever. And I was trying to look at something, you know, kind of behind her or whatever. And she was moving really slow. And I said, no, it's okay. I said, just go ahead. And she looked at me like I had just made her day, to have just given her 5 seconds to do what she was doing, you know?
Thank you.
So just,
I love it.
I don't know. It's so easy to get caught up in all that's going on and that you hear about. And I'm not saying, again, to not be concerned, but I think the world would be a better place if everyone would just take 5 seconds and just do something randomly nice for someone.
C'est ça.
Someone you don't know. You know, one of my favorite, I'll end with this. I don't know how much time you have.
Okay.
So when I was living in New York City, 20 some years ago, I was carrying a box of playing cards. I was walking across Broadway, and the bottom of my box fell out. And these were loose playing cards, not like in packs.
Normal
card explosion.
Oof.
In the middle of Broadway in New York City.
On the pavement.
On the pavement. And, you know, people always say, oh, New Yorkers are tough and New Yorkers are rude and New Yorkers are busy and whatever. Well, you know what? People came running from every direction and they were all like frantically helping me pick up all these cards in the middle of Broadway and get them all, you know, put back on my box. And it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And anyway, these are people that didn't know who I was.
I will explain
I'm not saying I'm some celebrity. I'm just saying,
no, it's not.
I'm not a friend of theirs.
Human.
But all these New Yorkers who were so busy,
they helped you
to go wherever they were going. They could have just looked the other way, but they didn't. They were like, this guy's got a problem. And they helped me, you know? So,
yeah, I see what you mean. Je vais expliquer parce que c'est très important. Donc, on disait que est-ce que le château de cartes, c'est vraiment une allégorie de notre monde qui est en train de s'écrouler? Et il nous dit qu'en fait, c'est des cycles. Il y a des cycles, c'est des effondrements et puis des constructions, et puis des effondrements et puis des reconstructions. Il a dit qu'il y avait un arbre qui était pas loin de sa cabane, qui avait 300 ans, qui a été explosé cet hiver avec pas les ouragans, mais les orages de cet hiver, mais que c'est vraiment un éternel recommencement. Donc, il ne se fait pas trop de soucis pour le monde qui va s'effondrer probablement, mais renaître de ses cendres. Et ce qui est le plus important, c'est d'être gentil avec les autres, d'être dans l'amour. Et ce qu'il nous donnait comme exemple, c'est qu'il y a quelques jours, il a aidé une dame d'un certain âge. Je sais pas, je crois que c'était traverser la route, mais en tout cas, il a été patient avec elle. Il lui a donné de l'amour alors qu'il ne la connaissait pas. Et elle a été tellement ravie. Elle a été, ce que disait Bryan, ça a fait sa journée, quoi. C'était quelque chose d'extraordinaire pour elle et pour Bryan. Et je partage absolument cette vision. Être le meilleur de soi-même, toujours, et avec tout le monde, c'est-à-dire pas des gens au hasard, des gens qu'on ne connaît pas, dire bonjour, faire un sourire, être accueillant, être bienveillant, altruiste, etc., écouter l'autre, ça n'a pas de prix. Et ce qu'il a vécu à Broadway, à New York, il y a quelque temps, il portait une grosse boîte avec toutes ces cartes, des cartes souples, pas des cartes rigides comme pour faire les châteaux, mais des vraies cartes très souples. Et le fond de la boîte s'est rompu. Donc, il y a plein de cartes qui ont été sur le trottoir. Il y en avait partout. Et il disait, mais peut-être qu'on peut penser que les habitants de New York, c'est des gens qui sont pas dans le partage, qui veulent pas t'aider, qui sont égoïstes, etc. Pas du tout. Tout plein de gens sont venus l'aider. Wow. Tout plein de gens, vraiment, des gens qu'il connaissait pas. Et il dit que c'est pas parce qu'il était célèbre ou quoi que ce soit, mais c'était juste l'élan naturel de l'humain qui veut aider l'autre quand il y a un problème. Et je pense et il pense aussi que le naturel de l'humain, c'est ça, c'est la générosité. Ouais. Et vraiment écouter cette part de nous, chacun en soi, parce que c'est ça qui fait le bonheur, c'est ça qui fait le monde meilleur. C'est l'amour qu'on donne aux autres et sans préférence, au hasard, à tout le monde.
Ouais. Ah, je suis d'accord.
Et ça, c'est vraiment le message qu'il veut transmettre aujourd'hui.
Excellent.
Thank you so much,
Merci
Bryan.
beaucoup, Bryan, pour ce message.
Not part of the interview, but
yeah,
you asked me if I understood any French, and I've been to France, of course, and Paris, and around the countryside, and Bordeaux, and places in between, and I still remember we were there for a wedding. We were in Cap. I'll probably say it wrong. Cap Ferret.
Cap Ferret.
Yeah. And our friends were from Paris, and they were getting married, and that's where they were getting married. And these old New York City roommates of ours, who are Turkish, were also there. Okay. And our Turkish friend.
When was it? When was it? When? How long was it?
10 years ago, at least.
10 years ago, il y a 10 ans. Donc, il a été à un mariage à Cap-Ferret.
Okay, so I always felt like everywhere I went in France, it doesn't matter what I was doing or where I was going, people would be like, no. Like everywhere, anything I tried to do, I'd be in the airport and I would reach for a sandwich and make no. Okay.
In France?
Well, oh yeah, just by coincidence. Okay, so anyway, this Turkish friend of ours and his wife, they're very glamorous and very wealthy, and we go into like this chocolate shop in Bordeaux. Okay, and they have macaroons in there and 100 other kinds of candy.
Et cannelés aussi, les petits cannelés. You know, cannelé is a Bordeaux speciality.
Okay.
Well, anyway.
Well, we go in there and I'm walking around, and if I even get near a little case with something in it, they're like, they're watching me. They're making sure that I'm keeping my distance from everything. And if I would touch or get near anything, no. They wanted to get it out for you. Meanwhile, my Turkish friend, he is walking around in there, opening every case and just he's eating like $50 worth of chocolates and macaroons. these are good. Oh, try these, you know, and they're not even watching him. They're just like, they're kind of looking over, but they're not really doing anything.
So they didn't want to watch, or they didn't see he was eating all this stuff?
Oh, they saw him.
Oh, they saw him, but they didn't say anything.
But they were picking on me. They knew I was an American, you know.
Incredible.
And he's Turkish. And he looks like he owns the place. So
it's a matter of what
here's my point.
No.
Here's my point. I'm not really talking about, this isn't about how French people act. I'm saying, I said to him, his name is Volkan. I go, Volkan, did you see that in there? I'm like, I even got near anything, and they're like, no. And I said, you're in there eating everything. You're eating half the store. How? He goes, how? Bryan, you have to act like you own the place.
Alors,
they will leave you alone.
Alors là, il a eu une expérience incroyable, Bryan. Quand il est venu pour le mariage d'un ami à Cap-Ferré, il avait un ami turc qui est venu aussi avec lui, qui était plutôt riche, glamour, qui se sentait chez lui partout. Okay. Et pendant que Bryan, il allait dans des magasins, dans une boutique de chocolat, où on lui dit non, tu touches pas, non, tu t'approches pas, non, reste loin. Et où les gens qui travaillent dans les endroits, dans les boutiques, lui disaient ne t'approche pas. Le copain turc, lui, il va dans cette boutique de chocolat, il commence à tout manger, à tout ouvrir, comme s'il était chez lui, comme s'il était propriétaire de la boutique, et on lui a rien dit. Et Bryan, ça l'a mis en chaos technique, parce qu'il ne savait pas pourquoi lui, on l'empêchait d'approcher, mais que le copain qui se servait comme s'il était chez lui, il n'y avait pas de problème. Ce que lui a dit son ami turc, c'est qu'il faut se comporter comme si tu étais propriétaire du lieu et que c'était normal que tu fasses les choses. En fait, ça parle d'alignement. Oui. Ça parle de comment on se sent. Et ça donne vraiment comment on se sent donne l'impression aux autres qu'on est à la bonne place et qu'on fait les choses correctement. Si on se sent coupable, ça va se voir. Oui, et peut-être que Bryan, probably you felt guilty or you felt shy or something, and they felt this, and you looked guilty. And when you look guilty, people take you as a guilty person. That's so.
But I haven't even touched anything.
No, I see what you mean.
He's eating it.
Not fair. That's not fair.
He's eating all of it.
Mais c'est vraiment une question d'attitude. It's an attitude thing. How you act, how you feel inside.
He's like, you have to make them think you will buy the whole store, so they'll leave you alone.
Faut faire penser aux gens que tu vas acheter toute la boutique et que c'est toi le proprio, quoi. Tu fais ce que tu veux. Mais c'est une attitude en général, oui. Hein. Franchement, c'est vrai que ça change tout, comment on se sent.
Oui. He's like, this guy, they're thinking, you're American, you're just going to buy one macaroon and leave.
Ah oui, toi, il pensait qu'il allait juste acheter un macaron et partir. Et donc vraiment, c'est l'impression que les gens ont de nous.
And he's like, yeah, they're letting me sample everything because they know I'm going to buy $1,000 worth.
Ils l'ont laissé tout prendre parce qu'ils étaient sûrs qu'il allait acheter pour au moins $1,000 de chocolat, vu son attitude en fait, vu sa posture.
So Bryan, you cannot act like you are cheap.
So tell me, did he buy for 1,000?
No, he didn't buy anything.
He didn't buy anything. En plus,
he ate like $20 worth of candy and walked out.
Il a acheté pour $20, il est parti. C'est fou. Thank you for the lesson. We'll learn about this. Thank you so much.
En tout cas, tu peux le remercier vraiment, Bryan, pour tout ce qu'il nous dit, puis tous ses messages. Ouais.
I really am sorry. It was so impossible.
No, you're not. Don't be brutal with yourself. Don't. No, you were perfect. Stephen is saying thank you so much, very, very much, Bryan, to have been with us and to have opened your heart like you did, during this interview. It's I was very touched too.
Et tout le meilleur pour ce qu'il va faire.
And
et
he
la
wishes
suite dans...
he wishes you the best for the rest.
On va suivre avec.
For the second part of your life,
Ouais.
Bryan.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So c'est ce qui compte bien
There's
faire.
life. There's life
Continuer.
before cancer and there's life after cancer.
Il y a la vie avant le cancer et il y a la vie après le
J'adore.
cancer. You're totally fixed.
Well,
totally...
yeah, they think so, but because of what it was, I have to get scans every year, like forever.
Oh, donc il faut faire des contrôles tous les ans jusqu'à la fin.
But the bright side is that, you know, my oncologist, he was like, well, you know, the good thing is nothing's going to sneak up on you.
What is it, sneak up? Tell me again. Sorry.
Well, like people, like one of the most deadly kinds of cancer is pancreatic cancer, cancer of the pancreas.
Ouais, le pancréas. Le cancer du pancréas,
And it's because people don't know they have it.
Ah.
And by the time they know they have it,
parce que quand on l'a, on ne sait pas qu'on l'a.
By the time they know they have pancreatic cancer, they're a dead man walking.
Okay, that's why it's.
So when you get scans every year, you're going to catch anything really early.
Oui, en fait, le secret pour pas développer le cancer, selon Bryan, c'est de faire des contrôles régulièrement, surtout quand on sait qu'on a eu quelque chose, pour vérifier que ça bouge pas. Parce qu'il donnait l'exemple du cancer du pancréas, qui est le cancer le plus dangereux, parce que personne ne se rend compte qu'on l'a. Et une fois qu'on l'a, ben, c'est trop tard. Ouais. Donc c'est ça la clé. Okay, thank you so much, Bryan.
You're very welcome.
And we'll follow your next record, Guinness.
On va suivre ça avec
book record about the largest castle. Yeah. And
the things that I said about my health and all that they're not, as far as I'm concerned, those are not a private issue. You are very welcome to include those, because kind of like I think it's important for people to take their health seriously, and you know.
Yeah. Bryan nous dit qu'on peut utiliser évidemment la séquence où il parle de son cancer, parce que c'est important que les gens prennent soin d'eux. Et merci.
Merci pour sa confiance.
And thank you for being for your confidence in us, and to have told everything you told us.
Sure.
Very touching.
En tout cas, voilà, c'est quelqu'un que je voulais vraiment interviewer depuis très longtemps.
He wanted to interview you for a long time.
Ouais.
Yeah.
I've wanted to try to help you interview me for a long time, but you know, when did you first get a hold of me?
So now we made it. Sorry?
When did you first get a hold of me?
Quand est-ce que tu as entendu, tu as essayé de le contacter?
Oh là là, je crois que ça fait peut-être 2-3 ans. 3 ans
For
peut-être.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah. See, that's why you didn't get a hold of me.
Yeah.
Because of all the shit I was dealing with.
C'est pour ça que tu n'arrivais pas à l'avoir, c'est parce qu'il était en train de gérer son œil, en fait.
Ah, d'accord.
Ouais.
Life was out of control.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
Out of control.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bryan.
We get in touch, and all the best for you.
Okay.
Ouais.
Thank you very much.
And we are.
Bryan.
And bye-bye to everybody. Thank you.